At PFS, we are taking fuel seriously. I'm the fuel guy with Performance Fuel Specialists, and we are passionate about fuels and additives. You know, over the last 30 years, we've trained people all over the country, changing the way they treat their fuel. And there's been a lot of changes since then with fuel, equipment, additives themselves. Thank you for choosing PFS as your choice of treatment. Now check out our other mini clinics. You'll see how completely different we are, and come to a better understanding of how to care for your vehicles and the best way to protect your investments. Be sure to like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Now get out there and treat your fuel right. All right, are you ready? Let's get going and talk about our Arctic Xtreme and Arctic Plus diesel treatments. These are both a complete formula diesel supplement for winter months and are total fuel system treatments. Plus, they contain a combination of powerful anti-gels to work with a variety of different fuels. To clarify, the difference between the two is simple. Arctic Xtreme has a treat rate of 1 ounce to 5 gallons of fuel. Arctic Plus has a treat rate of 1 ounce to 10 gallons of fuel. And that is the only difference. However, Arctic Plus is only available in 5-gallon, 55-gallon, and 275-gallon tote, and primarily used for bulk fuel customers only. So, let's get started with the anti-gel chemistry we use and what you can expect. It is critical, however, that you understand cold weather diesel fuel failures, and I highly recommend that you see our clinic on when to blend. This will be some great insight on what you should do in the winter when it gets cold. It'll also clear up some misconceptions that many people have about fuel system failure in the wintertime. So, how does an anti-gel work? Well, an anti-gel takes large wax crystals. When it gets cold, they break them up into smaller wax crystals, and they keep them from congealing so they repel one another. It's when those wax crystals get too big that your filter can catch them that they start clogging up the filter. Anti-gels, however, work completely different than a number 1 diesel fuel. Number 1 fuel actually makes the fuel thin and changes the viscosity. We'll discuss that in the When to Blend clinic. Diesel fuel additives, because they're a chemical, they have limitations. Think of it like this. Antifreeze freezes at about 0 degrees Fahrenheit, and water freezes at 32 degrees. If you mix them together at a 50-50 rate, they don't freeze to about -50 below. So what if you want to go colder? Do you use more antifreeze or water? Well, neither one. You have achieved the maximum reduction in temperature that is chemically possible. PFS anti-gels are the same way. The treat rate of 1 ounce to 5 gallons or 1 ounce to 10 gallons, depending on which additive you're using, will give you the maximum results you can expect out of any anti-gel. So you can literally double the anti-gel in your sample and test it. It does not get any better. It may gain 1 degree, but it doesn't work exponentially like you would think. So many anti-gels on the market will recommend that you use a certain amount, and then as the temperature gets colder, you double it and you triple it, you quadruple it. So what they're doing is they're selling you a limited amount of actual anti-gel chemistry in that bottle. And of course, doubling it and tripling it does give you better results because you're dealing with such a small amount to begin with. That is so wrong. First off, the amount of cleaning and lubrication and everything else you need remains the same, whether it's cold or hot. It's simply done as a marketing technique to get you to buy their product and cover their backsides when it doesn't work. You also need to be aware that there is a difference between gelling up and icing up. As you can see in these pictures, the left side is a gelled filter, the right side is an iced filter. The problem with this is the results are still the same. You're going to be starved for fuel and you're not going to run. You also aren't going to know what the problem is until you cut that filter open. That's why it's so important to continually use our products, keeping that water out all the time, eliminating that problem, and doing everything we can to make sure you're not gelling as well. What you see here is some cold filter plug point result with PFS diesel treatments. Cold filter plug point is a laboratory test that they use to see how well an anti-gel works and what you can expect to run in the cold. Now these are only laboratory tests, of course, and so they are not great indications as far as each individual piece of equipment. You can see in sample number 1, the green is a failure of number 2 by itself of 6 below. The yellow line is a -20, that is a 50-50 blend, and the purple line is the same number 2 that's in the green line with the PFS anti-gels, or Arctic Xtreme in this case, added to take it to 34 below zero. So we have a 28-degree reduction in operating temperature, where a 50-50 blend only had a 14-degree reduction. As you can see, PFS anti-gels across the board perform to excellence. However, there are many other issues that come along with this. Cold filter plug point is a great way to check for the effectiveness of an anti-gel. However, it's not always a good indicator of how well you're going to do with your piece of equipment. There's a lot of factors involved. First off, the starting point of the fuel you're using. As you can see on the chart here, the differential between number 2 varies between refineries and can vary much more than even that. The 50-50 blend results is also a big difference. So we don't know exactly where we're starting with, which makes it real hard to know where we're ending up. That's why products that use a varying amount depending on the temperature and all of that, it doesn't make any sense. You don't know where you're starting to begin with. Now, other factors. Diesel fuel filters. Boy, have they changed over the last few years. The tolerances are much tighter than they've ever been. And you know, tighter filter tolerance means more resistance and more wax buildup. Filters that are partially plugged build wax at a higher rate or ice than filters that are clean. So change your filters, people. I don't sell filters, but I highly recommend changing them around November, right before winter gets here. Another factor, your filter distance from the tank can create viscosity issues. If you have a tank in the back of your bus and a filter in the front of a bus and a half a mile of fuel line in between, you have a lot of restriction, and you need to understand viscosity versus gelling. That'll be a big indicator whether you're going to get through the cold or not. The only way to make a good decision is to have good information. Please check out our other clinics. I think you'll find they'll be very beneficial in keeping you running. And like all of our other additives, the formula covers a wide variety of fuel-related problems that we would experience in today's fuel. You know, the diesel industry has changed dramatically over the last few years with new regulations that have pushed the engine manufacturers to the limit. The new fuel systems are running pressures 4 times what they were just a few years ago. And now we have multiple injection cycles for every combustion cycle. Did you know the average injector can open and close between 1,500 and 3,000 times per injector per second just traveling down the highway? And these injectors are not cheap. You know, with these factors alone, it is critical to provide a top quality fuel treatment every time you fuel. Your vehicle deserves the best. This, however, is only the beginning of what PFS can do for you. Okay, so what about dose ratio? PFS Arctic Xtreme treats 1 ounce for every 5 gallons of diesel fuel. Arctic Plus is 1 ounce to every 10 gallons. And although the results in the products are identical, with the exception of the Arctic Plus is twice as concentrated. There's a little quirk that comes with that. Arctic Plus will gel in the container at about 20 degrees above 0 Fahrenheit. As you can see, the ounces are clearly marked on the side of the bottle, and under the cap in the foil liner, it's a small hole that allows you to measure out the amount you need. If you need the whole bottle, simply pry off the liner itself and use the entire contents. PFS products are also available in 64 ounce, 5-gallon bucket, 55-gallon drum, and for large accounts and bulk fuel dealers, 275-gallon totes. They say 2/3 the cost of a new diesel engine is the fuel system components themselves. 1/3 is the lower end. With that in mind, I'd like to make sure you listen to this entire video. I think it'll be helpful for you and come to a better understanding of just what's taking place in this industry. All right, let's get into some fun stuff. These are things you're going to need to understand, but there are so many things to cover out there. Make sure you check out our other mini clinics regarding specific issues that we'll gloss over here today. And this will benefit you whether you're maintaining one vehicle or entire fleet of vehicles. So, what to look for in an additive? Multifunctional, continuous use. This covers a wide variety of problems, including lubricity, and is to be used each and every time you fuel. That is the PFS mentality. Why? Well, because different fuels have different problems. Different vehicles have different problems. We don't know from one day to the other or one vehicle to the other what particular problem you may be having. For instance, you may have got a boatload of water in one tank of fuel. How do you know that? You may be having a lubricity issue because of the last load of fuel you got, or because of that particular vehicle. How do you know? You don't have any idea. So we cover those areas completely so there's no guesswork, right? Now, beware of products that are using varying dose ratios or the addition of multiple products. For instance, some additives will claim that they do all the different things you need, whether it's cleaning, lubricity, water removal, or whatever. But if you have extra problems, you need to add additional products. So for extra cleaning, add our cleaning product. For extra lubricity, add our lubricity product. The problem is you don't know from one tank to the other what problem you're having. Or double or triple the dose ratio. If you're having this problem, double it. If it's to this degree, triple it. You know, there's a reason that additives are referred to as snake oil. Either they don't work or they work too well. Solvents are one of those things. Oh, they work. They really work. But at what expense to your equipment? You know, solvents can be used to clean your engine oil, your transmission, your differential, and your fuel systems. And what you see online is the ability of a fuel additive to blast the carbon out of the cylinder. A before and after. Well, guess what? That's nuts. You're doing it all wrong, people. The goal here is not to get it dirty and clean it. The goal here is to keep it clean all the time. At PFS, we use the latest technology available for detergent dispersant cleanup. Why? Because solvent is not good for your fuel system. These systems are extremely expensive, as we discussed, and there's been some major changes. You know, in 2007, we saw the introduction of not only ultra-low sulfur fuel, but a huge change in equipment. This has required better detergents than ever before, and these constant technology changes keeps everybody on their toes. Now we've seen biodiesel being used in a much higher level, and that's its own problem. See that clinic. Everything has been multiplied. You know, your motor oil uses a detergent to clean. Why don't they use a solvent? It could save a dramatic amount of money on a cost of motor oil. However, the cost is ultimately your engine, because the solvents wipe away any of the lubrication in your crankcase, and they would do the same for your fuel system, deteriorate and corrode. A detergent dispersant is designed to complement the fuel, to keep the system clean while not providing any of the negative effects you get with a solvent. The dispersant is going to break apart any of the garbage and move it to the filter or through the fuel system where it can be burned safely. You know, since 2007, the introduction of the ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel has caused a lot of problems. And we've needed to increase the amount of detergents, and we've needed to change the technology, as we'll discuss. The constant changes in this technology and the increased use of biodiesels, also the problems of microbial contamination, have increased dramatically. What can we do to help protect our fuel systems against all these changes and all these problems? Now, as you can see here, this is the test result using the PFS diesel treatments. The red line is diesel fuel that contains a B5, which is 5% biodiesel, with 1 part per million zinc. Both of those are to cause the fuel system to foul at a faster rate. As you can see, within the 16 hours of runtime, we go from 100% down to about 93% efficiency. The blue line, however, is the same fuel treated with the PFS diesel treatment, and that maintains between 100 and 99% efficiency all the time, with the B5 and the zinc. So we've shown clearly PFS can keep your fuel system clean if it's clean to begin with. That's only half the battle. What if the fuel system is dirty? This test indicates a cleanup test. We start at 100% efficiency, 0 buildup. We run the injector without any additive to almost 9% buildup, at which point the additive is added to it, the PFS diesel treatment, and within 16 cycles you're back at 100% efficiency. What we have here is 3 slides showing injector deposits. The top slide being before, the middle slide after the deposits, and the final slide is after the PFS has been added and the system has been cleaned. That's all impressive. The big discovery here was that a 5 micron layer of deposit in a 150 micron nozzle resulted in a 12% loss of efficiency. That is huge. This is one of the reasons PFS recommends keeping your fuel system clean every time you fuel, and there's only one way to do that, and that's to use a detergent dispersant every time you fuel. Oh, and one more thing to consider. You know, these new injection systems have came up with a new problem, one never seen before. They call it IDID, internal diesel injector deposits. This is a waxy, soapy deposit that ends up inside the injector as opposed to a carbon deposit that was on the outside. Detergents had to make a big change to handle these never-ending problems. So, what can you expect out of PFS diesel treatments in real-world testing? But first, let's begin with a couple of things that we don't do. You know, testing additives is extremely complex and expensive. But in lieu of actual testing, let me give you a few crazy things you may see to, quote, prove the benefit of an additive. One company may show their ability of the additive to eat through a styrofoam cup. Now that's scientific. Well, another one may show that their product won't eat styrofoam. How about this one? How about lighting it on fire on a countertop and then feeling the oily residual afterwards and saying, see, that proves it lubricates. Well, the competition may come in, set it on fire the same way, and show a dry surface and say, see, it doesn't leave any residual to make your fuel system dirty. You know, I think my competitor summed it up best a few years ago. They had come up with a flyer with a toothbrush on it. And it said, your injectors are like teeth. They need regular cleaning. Use a bottle of our additive every 5,000 miles. Well, let me ask you this. You brush your teeth every 5,000 meals? Well, I would hope not. You brush your teeth every day. You do the same thing with your fuel system. Now let's see some of these real-world results with PFS. What you see here is the results of using PFS diesel treatments each and every time you fuel. This is a results summary of the detergent being used in the Volkswagen Turbo Direct Injected Engine Trial Test. You see a carbon dioxide reduction of up to 3%. They saw a fuel economy savings of up to 3.6%. Now, PFS will never guarantee you a fuel mileage increase. However, I will promise you this, a clean fuel system always gets better fuel economy and power than a dirty one. You also see your power increase by up to 2.5%. Now this is the big one. Emission reduction. Non-methyl hydrocarbons by up to 78%. A big part of this is your particulate. So for those of you out there with a diesel particulate filter, this is what's causing all your problems. Keeping it clean will make a huge impact on how often you have to regen and the results of that. You see a carbon monoxide up to 38% reduction and a nitrogen oxide up to 3% reduction. Now that's some real-world test results. Now, I think we can all agree that keeping your fuel system clean all the time is a much better option than letting it get dirty and cleaning it up later. But what else is there? Well, one of the things PFS does is provide top quality lubricity each and every time you fuel. PFS diesel treatments do that. And testing shows that our lubricity additives provide up to a 25% increase in your fuel system lubricity. And that is nearly double our competition. The testing, however, does vary depending on the fuel it's starting with, which is all the more reason to stay away from products with multiple dose ratios. Also, the standard specification set for refineries is about 15% less lubricity than the engine manufacturers want themselves. And it's almost 60% less than the same manufacturers wanted before the introduction of the ultra-low sulfur fuel. You also have to assume that the fuel you're purchasing even meets those specifications. Know this, PFS diesel treatments are designed to provide your equipment with the best possible lubricity available in any product. The trick is to lubricate your system every time, just like your motor oil. No additive, no lubricity. It's that simple. Now let's quickly go over some of the great things you can expect out of PFS, Arctic Xtreme, and Arctic Plus. We're going to reduce your cold filter plug point by as much as 30 degrees Fahrenheit. You'll see a slight increase in cetane. However, we use combustion enhancer technology that will help your fuel burn more evenly and more completely in the fuel system using additives and cleanup. You'll see about a 50% reduction in your soot level with continuous use and a reduction in fuel dilution. You'll also get 100% performance, 100% efficiency, and 100% power each and every time you fuel. Your diesel particulate filters will need to be regened far less often. For those of you running fleets and you have people out there who are not doing their job and regenning when they're supposed to, this is a great fail-safe to get you additional time on the road. We have a stabilizer for storage. That works for a few different reasons with the diesel. One, because of the fuel getting old, causing the ID problem we had discussed earlier. Also, these newer vehicles have a very hot fuel return and they're getting an asphalting issue in the tank, which is a black sludge due to the high heat of the fuel coming back. And the same product that stops that from forming is the same we use for a stabilizer. It is an antioxidant. Keeps the fuel from oxidizing prematurely. It's also going to stabilize fuel during storage over the winter months, summer months, whatever it would be. We use a de-icer as well to mix with water before it freezes and keeps it from freezing. We have no alcohol. I can't unfreeze you once you're frozen, but I can help in keeping you from freezing up to begin with. And we also remove the water a little at a time, all the time. We're going to break that water up into molecular size and we're going to disperse it from your fuel system. When? Every time you fuel. You may have problems in the winter time, but your water problem occurs throughout the entire summer, spring, and fall. Take care of it each and every time. Now, I know we've had to quickly cover some of these topics on our PFS diesel treatments, but it is so easy to educate yourself with detailed information on these subjects. Simply subscribe and sign up for our newsletter. There's just so much that you need to know. Continue following all our new and upcoming clinics and change the way you treat your fuel. Remember, like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Hey, one more thing before we go. A good supplement can be very beneficial to your fuel system. But are additives the final solution? Absolutely not. No fuel additive could replace good fuel, good maintenance, good equipment, or plain old common sense. Subscribe and educate yourself. You'll be surprised at how different things are than they appear. Get the most out of your fuel by checking out our website and signing up for our newsletter. It's time to change the way you treat your fuel.